Traffic method number one is SEO, or search engine optimization. It's working to improve a website's position and visibility in the organic, unpaid search results. That is precisely what SEO stands for. That is exactly what it is, and probably the best example I can give. The higher the rankings, the more targeted traffic you will end up receiving. Target keywords that will send you the right kind of visitors. That's really the most important part. So anytime you're doing SEO, it's basically working on your website, so it's cleaning up certain elements, and I'll talk about what to fix. The goal here is to improve where your website is positioned. If it's on page 5 of Google, you're not going to get a lot of visitors. So your goal is to get to page 1 and 2 if you can. You want to improve it as much as possible, your position, because that's going to give you more overall exposure for targeted keywords. And a single website can actually be found in the search results for hundreds of different keywords. It's entirely possible, which is why it's so important. And you don't want to focus on just one main keyword. It might be better off for you to get ranked for 100 really targeted type keywords. Maybe don't send as much traffic, but they send you a lot of targeted visitors that are really interested. So the higher the rankings, the more traffic you receive. It's simple as that. And you want to target keywords that send you the right kind of visitors. So when we're talking about keywords to focus on with SEO, you don't want to in particular focus on, let's say, weight loss. That's actually a pretty broad keyword phrase. But you may want to focus on something like weight loss, or let's say diet. In the weight loss niche, you could have dieting, and you could have inside the dieting market, you could have something like the fruit salad diet or something like that. You get the idea. There's the Atkins diet, that was a big deal. Atkins diet tips. Under weight loss, you could be covering fitness. You could talk about all kinds of different fitness methods. There's everything out there, from CrossFit to different types and styles of workouts that you could really be focusing in on if you're selling that particular information. So there's a lot of different keywords and niches within those broad niche markets, and so that's going to be what we talk about here, is how to narrow those down. SEO really begins with proper keyword research, and to do your keyword research, I recommend the Google AdWords keyword tool, and you can get to it from adwords.google.com/letter O keyword tool, and you can actually just do a Google search for Google AdWords keyword tool as well. The SEO Book keyword tool. SEO Book is actually a really good website to really get a lot of really good SEO intel, and it's a really good website that lays out the basics of SEO, and it's been around a long time. The guy Aaron Wall that's created it is just an outstanding authority on SEO, and he keeps you up to date on the latest changes. And you can actually just type in SEO Book keyword tool. These are two keyword tools. They're going to give you slightly different variations in results and intel on certain keywords, but they're really good for going in there and searching for proper phrases, like starting off with weight loss, but then under weight loss you're going to find all kinds of different methods. Fitness, under fitness alone, which is under weight loss, you've got fitness for senior citizens, fitness for pregnant mothers, you've got fitness for people trying to lose weight, fitness for people trying to get in shape and better heart health. You've got all kinds of things just under that, and then under workouts for pregnant women, there's a pile of other different keywords that you could be targeting. And so the point here is you want to target as specific keywords as possible, but you want to also be targeting keywords that will actually send you some sort of website traffic. SEO includes making, again, changes to your site to help search engines find and display your content to their users. That's, again, what it is, and so that's where the keywords come into play as far as having your right keywords. A really huge growing factor, and this is something you really want to make sure you listen into, is SEO is social signals, and that is stuff, links from Facebook, mentions of your brand on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Google Plus is a big one, and we'll talk about that as we move forward, but that's becoming really huge. You also want to get quality backlinks and content distribution. It's not like it used to be where you would want to focus on getting several several hundred backlinks or whatever, you might be better off getting 10 really quality backlinks from either guest blogging or distributing your content to popular websites. So it's really going to be a method where you're going to really focus in on creating quality backlinks to your content. So the first part of SEO is start with on-page SEO. This involves changing the HTML coding, which is the title tags and meta description. That's really where you're going to want to focus your efforts and attention on. This is how content is worded and displayed. So that's your title tag. You can see here in this example below here, you'll notice in Google, I typed in the phrase dog training collars. And one of the websites that came up was this website you see from PetSmart, this page from PetSmart. And you'll notice in my tabbed browsing here, in the top right corner, right where that arrow is pointing, that is actually where the title tag displays. So if you're looking at your website right now and you are looking in your website's browser, you would actually see inside your web browser, you should see at the very top there a set of keywords, or at least the first part of your keywords that you're targeting. And it should go from left to right. Just like you read, that's how the search engines read, and that's how they put weight on certain types of content. So dog training collar is the first thing that they are actually seeing right there in the search engines. So that's really a really key part of SEO, is make sure your keywords are in the title tag. How your content is worded and displayed is also important, as far as, are you using your keywords in your copy? Are you overusing it? That's a bad thing. So you don't want to overuse your keywords. Like I tell people, is make your content make sense. If it makes sense to you, at the end of the day, that's going to make sense to your website visitors. And that's essentially what Google's looking for. They want relevant content that looks good and that is something that people are going to want to read. The structure of your content and interlinking. So when you're on your website, how your content is linked together. Are you linking off to additional resources and posts within your site? That's really important, because that actually lets Google see that you have other important content pieces. So let's say you're doing a blog post or a write-up about travel tips, 25 hot destinations for travel, or something like that. You're doing a really nice article that's going to get shared and a lot of attention. And right below that, you might have 3 other recommended articles, or within that article you may link to another article of finding the perfect piece of luggage, and that might link to an article where you talk about finding the perfect piece of luggage for what type of travel, international, going to the beach, those types of things. Maybe that will give you some ways where you can kind of interlink your content, because that is really, really important. On page changes, the first thing you want to do is change your title tags. So when you're doing any kind of on-page SEO, which is kind of what we're looking at here, you want to make sure you change your title tags. Your target keywords should appear in the title tag, as we talked about. Target keywords should be in the title tag. So just like this example below, where the arrow's pointing to dog training collars, that's what you want to see in your web browser. If it's not there, you need to make sure you adjust that. This is probably, it is essentially the most important on-page SEO factor, because when you're doing any kind of Google searches, the blue underlined part that you see in Google search results is the actual title tag. It's actually pulled from the title tag. You want to create unique title tags for each page of content. You don't want to target the same keywords all throughout your website. Your title tag should be unique to that page, and it could even be a couple of keywords that are targeted. Like you could have dog training collars and dog tracking collars, or something like that. Could be a keyword for one particular page. But what you really want to do is have a very unique, focused title tag for each page of content, so it should correlate perfectly with each one of your different pages of content. You want to have no more than 70 characters and keep your site branding for the very end. So you want to tell the search engines right off the bat, left to right, your most important keywords, which in this case would be dog training collars, and then at the end you could do dash your website name. So keep your website branding at the end. So you don't want to go your website name, then dog training collars. you want to go your keyword first, then your website brand name if you want to go that direction. You'll notice here in the search results, all the arrows that I've got pointing here, every single one of those arrows is going to a title tag. Those are all the title tags in those particular pages. So you can see here and really study this page the importance of title tags. This was after I did a search for dog training collars, and each one of those blue underlined text is the actual dog, or is the actual title tag, and so that's where Google pulls it. That's why that is the most important part of search engine optimization, and you really want to make sure you have that in place, because that can mean you're missing out on a lot of website traffic if you're not telling the search engines what exact keywords you're focusing in on. You'll see here how to edit your title tags, and I'm going to focus more attention on this just because it is such an important part of search engine optimization. Editing your title tags, it's found near the top of the HTML coding, and it appears like this in your HTML coding. So to get here, you'd want to use like a editor called Composer. It's Kompozer. Composer, it's a website editor. It's a free website editor. It's similar to Microsoft Front Page, Dreamweaver, Coffee Cup Editor, some of those other ones that you used to have to pay for. But Composer, Kompozer, and it appears just like this in the HTML coding. You'll go to the source section, and you'll notice here it's going to say title. So it's going to have the little caret to the left, and then the word title, and then that little caret to the right or arrow to the right. And then your keyword rich title tag here, that's obviously where your keywords would go, and then the title. And you see where that arrow is, that is exactly how it's going to look to you when you're looking at your coding. So if you're editing a standard HTML page, not a WordPress website, this is where you're going to go to change your title tags. You're going to go into an editor tool like Composer. So let's say you have a squeeze page, or you have a website that was built using HTML or PHP or something like that, where you can edit this type of coding. That's where you would go. So you'll want to use an HTML editor like Composer in source mode to edit this, and Composer is a free HTML editor. In WordPress, you could use a plugin like All-in-One SEO Pack. There's also another one called the Yoast SEO plugin, which is a really good one as well. So either one of those are going to be really good plugins for you to look at, because they can really help you drive traffic. Editing your title tag, again, found near the top right there. So you can see here, on page change number 2 is improving how your content is displayed. So to do this, you want to use proper header tags, and these would be things like H1, H2, and H3. So those are not viruses, those are actual header tags. Those are actually how search engines browse through and look at this stuff. You'll notice how your content is displayed here. The very top of the page is a header tag, small business loans. This page is very targeted for small business loans. If you actually read this content though, it makes sense. They aren't actually going out there and really abusing it in the sense that they're just stuffing this keyword in there. They're actually doing a really nice job of putting in a header. And a header would be almost like a section heading in a way that kind of directs people into the next part of that content. So you could do this very easily in WordPress. If you're doing a WordPress post, you actually can pull down. There's a pull down option. It typically is in the left hand side of your WordPress content editor when you're editing a blog post, and it'll say paragraph or style, and you could actually pull down and choose, like, I want to use a header 1 or I want to use a header 2. And you don't want to use more than one of each of these if you can help it on the post, especially the header 1. You want to try to focus that on that particular page's content. So header 1 here, H1, like small business loans, where that top arrow is pointing at small business loans, that would be a header number 1. Right below that, you've got small business loans. That would be called a H2. That would be right below the first header. So you want to make sure at the very least that your first header actually has your keyword in it, because that's going to tell the search engines. The search engines see that, that, okay, this page is about small business loans, because they see it in the title tag, they see it in the header, and then they see it in the content, thirdly, and that really is what they kind of use to see, okay, this page is relevant to this. And then the other most important element is to ensure your content is coherent, it's readable to your visitors, because Google actually has ways of seeing how people are coming in and out of your website. How fast they're bouncing out of your website. And so the longer people are sticking on your site, meaning you're providing them the content they want, the longer you're going to end up ranking in the search engines. So that, in a nutshell, is another set of on-page changes you can make. Creating your proper header tags, you could use an HTML editor like Composer. Select your text style. It'll say like heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3. Composer is really good about doing that as you create your content. Again, make sure you're incorporating your keywords into the header tags. And in WordPress, you can create header tags similar to Composer like I talked about. Under the paragraph dropdown, choose your heading style and make sure it actually is set for your keywords. Your website's content, when you're writing your content, you do not want to overuse your keywords. Try to use your main keyword phrase in the opening and closing paragraph, and then use it where it makes sense throughout the rest of your copy. So you don't want to like purposely say, oh, I need to stuff my keyword here. If it doesn't flow, don't use it. But if it makes sense, apply it in there. But at the very least, make sure it's in the opening paragraph and the closing paragraph, along with being found in your header, meaning it's kind of like a header that says like for example, small business loans. That could be your phrase. You could use it in attractive little header that says something like 5 ways to ensure you get a small business loan. But your keyword is in that header. Your keyword is found in the title tag. Then that's really important, because that's going to tell the search engines this page is about small business loans. Write for humans and you will see a much better stick rate, and you're going to end up getting much more traffic. A big mistake people made in the past with SEO was they were trying to write for the robots, and that caused them a whole lot of problems, is in that they weren't getting rankings. They were not getting ranked properly. It just was not working out for them. And so you want to make sure you write for humans and you will see a much better sticking rate. Focus on quality content. That's really, really important. And this is the type of content that you would want to find on a website. You know the types of websites you browse. You know which kind of content you read. So you want to have really quality content. If that means intermixing videos like that you've pulled in from YouTube, that's fine too. If that means linking out to different sources, then that's good too. That's really a good way to create content. It's come up with, a list of top 10 travel destinations, top 5 ways to ensure you get a small business loan. Those types of things people really, really want. 25 website traffic methods, for example. Those are things people want. They're interested in. It's going to draw their attention in, and they're going to take a look at what you have to offer. On-page change number 3 is internal linking, and I just refer to that as getting your content found. Set up a sitemap which contains all the links to your internal pages on one page, or at least that links to a category that may link off to another set of your pages. But you want to make sure Google has a way of easily finding all your content at once. Generally, sitemaps aren't going to be used by casual website browsers, but some people will. But Google, Yahoo, Bing, the major search engines, you want them to find that, because you want them to be able to easily find all your content. And that's a nice thing about using a WordPress site, is there's plugins that create your sitemap, and they do a really good job with the RSS, or Real Simple Syndication, of actually already having that built in, so it kind of helps let search engines know when your content is brand new. If you're using WordPress, you could use the Google XML Sitemaps plugin. That's a really good way to ensure your content gets found rather quickly. Use text-based links when linking internally to your pages. So that means you don't want to use links that have JavaScript or are hidden behind Flash. You want to try to avoid using image links. So you don't want to put like an image that says click here. You want to actually write the word click here. It used to be in the past that when you would link to different internal pages, you would want to try to use the keywords that link to that page, but that's kind of lost its luster because a lot of people spam that. And so simple things like, click here and discover how to do this, that's fine too. Interlinking your keyword if it makes sense there, that's okay too. You just don't want to over abuse that kind of strategy. Don't link through, again, JavaScript links, images, Flash, those types of things. Need to be text-based links, meaning it's just a text like you're seeing on the screen, but that would be a link to your page. WordPress sites, again, have an RSS feed, which is just another huge plus. So that really helps get your content found and helps you get that exposure. On page change number 4 is improve your site's page speed. That's another thing that really will help enhance your overall search engine optimization efforts. Check the page speed of your homepage using Google's Page Speed Insights tool. These are the types of tools, these are the things that if you hire anybody to do search engine optimization on your website, they're going to follow at the very least these first 4 steps to really get an idea. So this is kind of giving you a leg up, so you're not having to shell out $500, $1,000 to get an SEO analysis. You can run a search on the page speed, you can run a search for Google's Page Speed Insights tool, and that will actually tell you where your site could improve. Like maybe you have too many images that are loading, and that tool will really give you some insight as to where you need to improve things. Other important SEO considerations is you really want to incorporate social sharing buttons on your site. I told you that social signals are becoming a huge factor in where websites rank and how they rank. You want to include at the very least Google Plus, Facebook, and Twitter buttons. You can actually use something, it's called the Add This sharing tool. You can actually create Google Plus, Facebook, and Twitter pages and then link to those from your website using a tool called the Add This, which creates all your little social sharing buttons, including like your LinkedIn page if you want to have that out there as well. And that's really important. And then you also want to make sure you're using the social sharing options as well. The Dig plugin, it's Digg, Dig, and it works really well as far as on each one of your blog posts. It will actually have an option where people could share it through Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus. Those things are really important because as people share those things, those are called social signals. Those are kind of like what backlinking used to be back in the day of search engine optimization. They're becoming really, really important. You want to keep your content updated and fresh, keep it new, keep new content coming. If that means hiring somebody to do blogging for you, then that's what it's going to take. That's what you need to do. When creating your content, focus on quality over quantity. So you don't necessarily, when I say keep your content updated, you don't need to have a new post a day. If it's 1 or 2 blog posts a week and they're really high quality blog posts, that's great. That's going to be just fine. That's going to be okay for you. You're going to get a lot of traffic that way. Create content that would encourage shares from other people. You want to create those like top 10 articles that I was talking about. If that means combining, you could even go through YouTube and find 10 videos that apply to your niche market and put those into a blog post. You could find 10 inspirational quotes and say top 10 inspirational videos for fitness gurus or something, and you could put that into a post and embed each one of those 10 videos. You could link off to send a link to find different news articles that talk about a certain weight loss method. That's called, some people would consider that content curation, and that is what it's called. And that's where you're basically taking bits and pieces of information, top 25 shoes, top 5 video games of all time, and you could link off to articles that argue those things. I mean, you get the idea. Whatever your niche is, you can really find content that you could do. Top 10 articles, how-to articles do really well, how to do certain methods and things. Case study articles do well, get a lot of attention. You want to create content that fits your niche audience. That's the most important element. Incorporate pictures, videos, and external links to other sources. That's a really nice, simple way to create fast content that's actually super high quality. And if you do not have a blog already, which I would recommend because it's a good foundation for anything, make sure you have a blog. So if you have a standard e-commerce type website just selling physical products, you want to eventually make sure you add a blog to it that you add relevant content to, because that's a blog's a really good way to incorporate things like the DigDig social sharing plugin. It's a great way to incorporate other sharing methods so people can share your content. Those social signals are kind of like what backlinks used to be, how they were so important. Another thing that you can do, another SEO consideration and tip, do a Google search for the following: site colon yourdomain.com to see how it is being indexed. That will actually tell you, you don't want to put HTTP or www in front of the your domain. You want to put site colon yourdomain.com. That's going to tell you how many of your pages are being indexed. So you'll have a rough idea as to how many pages of content you may have, and that's going to tell you, is Google finding my content okay? So if you actually go through that and see that they're finding most of your pages, then that means that your content is being indexed. And since it's being indexed properly, you know at that point what you need to do to either improve that, like add a sitemap, or everything's okay because they're finding your content. SEO and backlinking, again, I talked about, backlinking is not as effective as it used to be, but it still improves your website's ranking, and it's still something to focus on, especially if you focus on it with the intent of sharing good quality content out there. And if your really main intention is to just generate more exposure for yourself that happens to link into your website, that's where backlinking can definitely benefit you. You only want to get links from quality sources. So quality links are way more valuable than a large quantity of links. And when I say quality of links, they could be relevant blogs in your industry. They could be a directory that's very niche focused to the market you're going after. It could be a link on a very high traffic forum in your marketplace. Don't just do one backlinking strategy, like say, hey, I'm only going to do press release backlinks. But just like overall website traffic, now here we're focusing a lot on SEO. The cool thing is a lot of these when I talk about getting quality backlinks, each one of the future traffic methods that I talk about are going to be ways they're going to generate exposures for your website, some social signals, and then backlinks to your site. So it's going to kind of incorporate into this overall SEO plan that I'm laying out here. You want to have variety with your backlinking, and make sure you're getting links from social sharing type websites. So those would be Squidoo type pages where you can go in there and you can post your own content, social bookmarking sites that may be relevant to your niche market. It's like it used to be where you would want to go out and say, hey, I want to hire somebody and use a tool or software that's going to get me 500 of these type of backlinks. Well, that's not as effective as it used to be, and so it's better to just kind of focus in on creating good valuable content that you can then get shared out there. The best links are those you don't work for, which means you need to focus on creating extremely engaging content. Examples would be to look at your competitor websites, see what kind of content they're creating. If they have social sharing buttons like DigDig that tell them that this article was shared 15 times, or this article was shared 25 times or 28 times, then that's where you need to really focus on. Content distribution through article distribution, press releases, videos, it's still an awesome way to get backlinks and ultimately exposure. Even though those backlinks may or may not enhance your search engine positioning, it's going to increase your following online. It's going to drive people in from video sites, from press release sites, from those high traffic article sites, and it's all going to be focused on content that's driving people to content and traffic within your niche. And we'll talk about each one of these methods in more detail, most of those in part 2, especially articles, press releases, and